Hey guys, welcome back to the United Stars. So today we're here to talk about the transfers that you should do in your fantasy Premier League team. So Prasham, a tough game week ahead with some really interesting fixtures and the heavyweights of this season facing one another. So what's your take on those games first before we go on the easier picks?
Right. So firstly, I see that Arsenal is going to be playing Tottenham, North London derby. So it's going to be a very tough game. And knowing how Mourinho will set up, I don't see many goals in that game, to be honest. I am not sure who will win. I think it could be a one-all draw or something like that. But not a lot of goals. So first of all, I would not have. I would probably transfer out Arsenal players unless, of course, you have someone like Bukayo Saka, who's a cheap player whom you can put on the bench this week and have him there because he's been performing well. And for his price, I think he's a good pick. But Spurs assets, I really don't see whom you can hold because all of them are quite expensive. Son, the Ali is injured. We don't know what's happening with him yet. Kane is expensive. So Lo Celso, Bergwijn maybe, but Bergwijn doesn't start as often. So I don't see a lot of Spurs assets. So if you have Spurs assets, transfer them out. I don't see. I mean, going forward, they're not doing much defensively. They look shaky. Not a very good sign there. For Arsenal, like I said, if you have Saka, keep him. If you have Martinez, maybe keep him. He's doing a pretty good job in goal for his price, a good goalkeeper to have. So that's the first game. The other game, which I think is hard, where a lot of people have players, is Wolves and Everton. So you'd have Dorothy and Jimenez, Saiz, all these players would be there involved. Traore, all these players are involved in that game. So in that game, I think I'd be a little cautious. Again, going to be a tough game. I just do see Everton pinching a goal here. But again, it's a very hard call to drop Dorothy because of how much he gives going forward. It's like Arnold, you don't drop Arnold because they might not keep a clean sheet, but he might score a free kick and you're going to be behind everyone else. So I think for that reason, you need to have Dorothy in. Jimenez has hit a rough patch. He's not scored goals recently. He's not been scoring goals. I think he's gone without a goal in his last 3 games now.
Yeah, he's been
So
getting 2 points for the last three game weeks.
so there are two ways to look at it. You either look at it that he's due a goal this week or he isn't. So I think he is due a goal and I think he will score against Everton. I'm looking at a 2-1 win for Wolves. I'm looking at a 2-1 win for Wolves. So Jimenez with a goal or even two. The other fixture that I think is a little tricky is Sheffield Chelsea. We've seen that Chelsea going forward are brilliant, but Sheffield defensively are sorting themselves out really. And they played a very open game against Wolves. It was a very end-to-end game as we saw. So what happens in this case is then that Chelsea, I think, will get chances. It will be a tricky game. They will get chances. So I'd say if you have a Pulisic or a Willian, hold on. Maybe not bring them in this week, but don't sell them for sure because their next game is against Norwich. Remember that because both Pulisic and Willian have been giving great returns. So in terms of the tough games, I think it's that and a couple of easy games that I'd like to point out, easy or interesting games where managers could do a lot. Of course, Watford and Newcastle. You could either go for maybe even a defender from Newcastle and Federico Fernandez, even though he own goal, but that doesn't matter much. You can go against Fernandez. Newcastle are playing away from home. They haven't been doing that well since the restart in terms of defense. They're scoring a lot of goals, but in terms of defense, not. But maybe against Watford, a clean sheet is very much possible. The other player from Newcastle, there are two I'd say is, of course, Alan Saint Maximan has been pretty good after a restart and he's been involved in assists and goals. But John Joe Shelby has showing a lot of the reasons why Liverpool bought him all those years ago. So maybe John Joe Shelby is a good option and Maximan is also a good option. Between these two, you can pick one. And then, of course, West Ham assets. I think West Ham assets are going to be something that you need to get in this week. I think West Ham have a very easy fixture in Norwich. Norwich look like they're done, whereas West Ham look like David Moyes has got it figured out as to how to keep them in the Premier League. So, of course, Antonio, as Shivan also had said last week, he's a great asset to have. Thomas Suchek is another person that I personally wanted to get in because of the price point. So there are these 2-3 games, West Ham, Norwich, and Watford, Newcastle, particularly, that managers can really get differentials in. And if you're struggling and if you have some budget constraints, maybe drop some of the bigger players and get these guys in because really West Ham are showing you what we've been saying all along. They have something to fight for, and they're really showing it what kind of what they're made of. And David Moyes is playing more attacking football with West Ham than he did with United.
I completely agree when it comes to the big games, especially when we spoke about Jimenez as well. He's not performing. Arsenal, Spurs. It's a tough game week, but Let's talk about two teams that have more or less secured top four and then go into the last two fixtures. Liverpool and City. Salah starting this game week, Mane sitting on the bench. City with a constant rotation taking place. Foden playing more regularly. Any suggestions on that end?
So see, last week Shivar and me both said drop Salah, and Salah did what he did. So, but this week I'm fairly certain that he's going to be on the bench because the rotation policy would suggest so that he's on the bench. So I'm yet of the opinion that you can drop Salah, and then there are better assets out there. So I had two transfers last week, and I dropped Salah and got De Bruyne and Pulisic in, and it worked out very well for me. So just remember that you can get two players for the price of Salah. So that might yet be an option. With City, just stick with one City player, I'd say, and keep going on, because it's likely that you don't want to load up, because you don't want to triple up, maybe because you don't know who's going to start. Eric Garcia, some people bought because of a low price point, but he doesn't start. So when you do these things, and your bench, because we can see like already a lot of injuries are coming up, even though five substitutes are there, we're seeing a lot of injuries. A lot of managers are facing no options on the bench, and they have to play the 11 players they have. And then if someone doesn't start, especially from City, then it's a problem. So just stick with one player. Personally, I think stick with De Bruyne if you have him. Brilliant price for the value he brings to the table, and consistent player. And even if De Bruyne, most games there's one player who will come on, you can guarantee is De Bruyne. If De Bruyne is on the pitch even for 25 minutes, he can create a goal. He's that good. So I'd say stick with De Bruyne. I'm yet saying drop Salah. In the other game, Vishesh, just before we wrap up, I want to mention is Aston Villa and Palace. I think Aston Villa and Crystal Palace is another one of those differential games. Maybe you go for someone like a Wilfried Zaha or a Jordan Ayew. I don't think Aston Villa will beat Palace because, I mean, to be very honest, Aston Villa, Grealish is looking shaky. McGinn is not looking that good. And Palace have shown some signs of quality while going forward. They even put a very strong Chelsea team under a lot of threat. So a Zaha, a Van and Holt. If you have a defensive player, you can get Van and Holt in. Or, of course, you have the option of getting Jordan Ayew, who is a very cheap striker.
Completely agree, and I just want to now touch on the last two fixtures that I left for the end, which are Bournemouth versus Leicester. I think we can agree to the point that it's time to load up on the Leicester player of Jamie Vardy, because Bournemouth have just been conceding. It's like an open gate for any striker out there. And as far as United goes, we've been repeating it since restart. It's time to load up and get the three players of United. So just a quick
Absolutely.
word on that before we wrap things up.
Absolutely. I'm not going to say much on United. We've said it again and again. Bruno Fernandes, I don't know why he's not in your team if he's not in your team by now. Get a United defender in. It looks like they will keep clean sheets, and get a United either Martial or Rashford. Or if you want to be adventurous, get Bruno, Rashford, Martial, or Bruno, Greenwood, Martial, or any combination of those things. But get three United players in. You can see the quality out there, not coming from a bias again, just the quality in terms of points, in terms of FPL points, expected goals, expected chances created, big chances created. Bruno, Martial are very high on that list, and Rashford is also, I think, in the top 10 this season after restart. So I think it's a great. You have to get these guys. And in terms of Leicester, I definitely say Jamie Vardy is starting to hit his stride. And when he does hit his stride, it doesn't matter whom they're playing, he tends to get goals. So even though they have tough fixtures after the Bournemouth game, first of all, you need a Leicester player for a Bournemouth game. So if you can't afford Vardy, get in Harvey Barnes maybe. But Bournemouth has become the whipping team of the Premier League along with Norwich. And I feel that it's sad though, because Bournemouth's a small club and you want them to do well. But it's sad, and Eddie Howe is facing a lot of difficulty. But Jamie Vardy got that 100th goal, like we've said, looking sharp, looking good against Arsenal. He provided some, I think, created three brilliant chances,
Yeah.
two for Iheanacho and one for Perez, and both of them fluffed their lines. And then when he got his chance, whatever it may be, controversial or not controversial, he got the goal. He put it in the back of the net. Three goals in the last two games. You can't fault the man. He is brilliant. We know that. And when he gets on the streak, he's dangerous. So get Vardy in if you can. Just keep it in mind, keep a caution in mind that they are playing Sheffield, Spurs, and United after this game. So that is a word of caution on Vardy, but I do see him getting at least three goals in the next four games.
I completely agree. And before we wrap things, I just want to mention one differential that I know a lot of people haven't been picking, and this has no bias whatsoever. That would be Greenwood. Like Prasham and I have different opinions when it comes to Greenwood's performance from now onwards. But I think at his value, having him on that team for 4 million is not that big a risk. So Prasham, what's your take on that?
Yeah, definitely have him in your team for 4 million. But the other thing you need to remember is that if you can only have three United players, and you think that Rashford, I think Rashford is going to get 20 goals this season in the Premier League. Though then I would rather go for a Marcus Rashford than a Greenwood, even though Greenwood's only 4 million. So in case you already have Rashford and Bruno, and you don't want a United defender, you don't want Martial, then go for Greenwood. But remember, don't go for him just because of the price. Look at the points as well of what other people might get from United.
So guys, that's about it. This game week that's coming up is pretty tough. It's quite a heated one between the elite clubs of this season, and this is what we think of the players that should be removed or brought in. Do let us know what you think. Thanks, Prasham, for coming back once again. We'll see you next time, guys. Bye bye.